Make some adjustments. We have a commercial swing set with A-frames on the end in my school that allows us to run a rope across the A portion of it at the end. Now, to use a short rope, we change the drill a bit. First, we don't walk it. We shuffle back and forth beneath it. The way you shuffle is very important here. Let's look at the rope with some guidelines. And this is what you should be doing. Duck under and back. Under and back. Under and back. This is every bit the leg killer that walking the line is. Although I'm really showing you an X here on the floor, you really only work one side of it. We do just this side and a right lead just because of it's part of our strong side forward fighting philosophy. You work it whatever way you like. You work the other side and the left lead. Regardless, you don't want to do this. You don't want to go perpendicular to your rope. You want to go diagonal to it because you don't want to duck under somebody this way where you're still wide open. If my opponent is here, I want to be in a position where I can put my legs on him once I come up. I don't want them away from him at this point. Like I said, with the rope, you can make this a decent solo training drill. But with a partner, this is where the drill really starts to pick up a degree of reality. Let me show you how I do this with my partner, Ron. He's going to start here. He's going to hold his arm at my sternum height. He's going to keep it there. I'm going to start outside the arm. Duck under. Then I start punching. Other side, please. The way we do this drill, Ron's going to keep his fist on my sternum. I mentioned that before. That becomes very important because a lot of people, it'll track up over time. You don't want that to happen. So you start with it on the sternum, you keep it there. I'm going to begin in this first version outside. Essentially, I'm in the Lanka 2 position. I'm going to duck under and come back up. And then I'm going to duck back, staying a little lower, and I punch here. Okay? I want to keep my right foot here outside of his. And you can see that I'm still following my #1 rule of keeping my shin oriented on my opponent. And I want to religiously follow as closely as possible this diagonal line. It'll make you sore right in here. Because as you're ducking under, you're pulling yourself to the various positions. So it'll make you slow, make you sore. I'm already slow. I've been doing this long enough. You don't want to bend over. You want to get low by bending your knees. When I punch, I'm punching from a low position. I don't want to get low by bending over. If I'm trying to do this, one, my head will bump into him, but it makes a perfect lever for him to just manipulate me all around any way he wants. So make sure that when you duck, use your legs. Use your legs. When you slide under, back and forth, you want to make sure that you slide up both sides of the arm. Not under it. I don't want to do this and lift his arm. But I still want to stay with him. I want to maintain continuous adhesion. Now, this close contact, and when a tall guy's doing this drill with a shorter person, he really hates it because he's got to duck a whole lot lower. But what you want to do with this is you may, this close, not be able to see everything he's doing, but you can feel it. He can't move without breaking this contact or without applying more pressure. So you can feel it. The other thing is that when I duck under and I return and I strike, I want to tap the same rib. I don't have to hit him hard, but I do want to maintain good form. I want to tap it each time. So when I'm ducking under, I come back and I hit the same spot. Under, hit the same spot. Under, and the same spot. He should be able to say, good, focus. And again, you want to keep this thing lined up on your sternum. Everybody has this tendency to raise it up. Everybody. Now let's look at another way we can do the same drill. This time, I'm going to start on the inside of his arm. Now, the first time we did this drill, I started outside. And it's what I call an outside to inside movement, because I'm going from outside to inside. Now, I'm going to start on the inside and do an inside to outside movement. I'm still following my one rule, my shin oriented on him, and if you think about it, I'm still in Lanka 2 position. While I'm on the inside of his arm, don't lose sight of the fact that his arm is still at sternum height. What I'm going to do is, from this position, very close to him, I'm going to duck under, come up here, I'm riding up, you can see how I'm very close to his arm, making close contact. I come up to about this height, because it really works the legs, duck back, and I stay lower. Bam! And I'm punching. This punch is coming off the ground. I'm following this diagonal. I don't want to get off of this diagonal. By staying lower, I'm punching up. If you look at it, from here to here, down to the knee and to the foot, should draw a pretty strong diagonal supporting line where I'm punching right off the ground. If I'm up here punching, my support for this direction is just the ether. It's non-existent. You've seen us do outside to inside. You've seen us now do inside to outside. Let's show you how we combine these two. Since we're going back and forth here, you could start outside or you could start inside. Now I recommend starting with the one that makes you the least comfortable. This way, if you're caught off guard in a fight, which most of the time you are, you're at least used to working from a disadvantaged, uncomfortable position. Once you get moving on the drill, it's just like all the others, it's just you're working a little harder when you're punching. When you're doing the other drills, whether you're going from inside to outside, and let's say that I did that one, I come up higher on the outside, but when I do the punching side, I stay down. Again, punching off the ground. When you do this one, you stay low on both sides. So I may start standing up, but I'm going to move under, punch, punch. I don't come up. Punch, punch. Not like the other where I came up, punched, or came up and punched. On this one, you're going to punch from the ground. You're going to stay low, not coming up. It's a little harder to do, but that's the benefit of a leg drill. It really works them. The direct benefit to this drill should be obvious. I mean, it strengthens your legs. But there's another reason for the benefit, and that is it's safer. Ducking with your legs like this, this is safer than bending at the waist. Because once you bend at the waist, you're off balance. Using your legs, he's in a much better fighting position. Bent over, and as you saw before, you can manipulate your opponent. Bent over like this, he has all his weight hanging out here. It's nothing to get him down. Ron? The Rocky drill makes this bend at the waist unnecessary, because now you have the leg strength to do it right. Bending at the knees. The next drill is one students of Chinese arts are quite familiar with and know as 3-star. Let me show you how we do it. We'll break it down. We'll do it a few times and then break it down after that. Just with Danny Young, my friend here. Come back and forth. Okay, we'll switch sides. When I was first taught this drill, it was practiced standing up and as a forearm toughening exercise. We don't practice it this way. I'm going to try to show you what it's like. It may not look exactly the way it was done, but you get the basic idea. We'd start here, shoot across, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you're standing in a very stationary position. I prefer more movement. So you see us rotate a lot more, as well as alternating height. The other thing is that while smashing your forearms may condition them, it can also damage them. So we don't hit as hard, plus we use a 2-bone strike. When you're doing the forearm conditioning part, frequently what you see is this: single bone on single bone. What we try to do is minimize that because I want to be able to write. And I use a 2-bone strike. It's spread across both bones. Okay? Like the shell drill, once you're down and you're striking down here, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to come up, because coming up needlessly simply burns your legs up. Lots of energy is expended from that. And if you're down, you don't want to pop back up just to drop back down to fight low. Once you're down low, stay there until you secure a good base to work from. As far as your stance goes, when you're doing this, you want to drop into what would be the bottom half of a swastika. We've seen this before. Perpendicular line, parallel line. If I fold right, I've done my strike here, and I fold right. Watch this leg folds in as I come back across and make the other one. The knee is coming to the same spot every time. If you got your legs too far apart, a lot of people will do this. Well, now they're hanging all their weight out here. You want to keep them narrower to where you can keep your weight right here. If you get them too narrow, it's almost as though this guy's got to get out of the way before this one can comfortably get in place. Plus, you have too small a platform to fight from. So, optimal length, about a nice horse stance. You can see it comes down to here. Don't kneel down when you're doing this. I'm just making a point here. My legs are getting tired anyway. So you get to this point. That's the place that this other one should drop to. Then you got the right position. 3-star is a good example of a drill that effectively marries good handwork with equally good leg work. For example, the hand movements use many of the same lines that you saw in key lop hands number 8 in reflex action. Your arm is moving inside the shield when it goes up and when it goes down. Okay, now this shield hand is very important. It protects this weapon so that if anything is coming for it, the shield picks it up. But further, the shield hand is used for striking any number of other objects along the way in. Also, even though my legs are not pointed at my partner here, the basic leg position is the same position you saw us use in the Rocky drill and in the shell drill. The small difference is that this foot is turned in. This provides me a degree of lateral stability so I can maintain my balance here. It's the only difference between this stance and all the others. When I did the Rocky drill, left foot forward please, and I'm in this position here. I'm in this stance. When I'm doing the 3-star drill and I strike this way, I'm in this stance. Again, the only difference was this foot's turned in a little bit. And that is for lateral stability. I said this was a drill that Chinese practitioners are familiar with, but believe it or not, that stance work, you'll see silat players do it. They'll face each other just like this. They'll use it for bridging the gap. But I've also found this highly complementary to Filipino weapons work. When I do this, I use a baton here. If I'm in this position, he has a difficult time reaching my legs with any weapon. But I can reach his legs quite easily. Also, from this position, I can move forward in one step. He has a more difficult time moving forward. His initial step might take him to here as he shuffles, but he's not going to be able to bridge the gap as effectively. You can do without the baton. Same thing. 2 silat players facing each other. Next thing, one crashes in on the other. We have leg work being performed right here while I go after him. Again, the 3-star drill is a good example of a drill that marries effective hand movement and effective leg skills. It took years for me to move from a sport karate mentality. Even things you think are self-defense have many of their roots in the sport karate side of it. The toughest thing that I had to refocus on, pulling away from that, was my kicking. Even though I seldom, if ever, kicked to the head, unless I kicked the guy in the groin first and lowered it, I still had to rethink my kicking strategy. That meant rethinking kicks to the body. Something we do seldom now. We still do it, but not near as much. Now, over time, my leg work skills improved. With that, I came to really appreciate leg kicking. Because unlike most kicks to the legs, ours don't withdraw. You know, the traditional way that it's taught. Up on 1, kick on 2, back on 3, down on 4. Well, we no longer do number 3. We don't pull them back anymore. And it's a direct result of our Lanka training. Let me show you a couple of absolutely devastating kick combinations that'll emphasize what I mean. Most of the time, one of 2 round kick methods is used. The classical kick and retreat, or the Thai method that kicks through. Ours evolved into a kick and step. Watch this. Your kick doesn't have to be as devastating as the Thai kick. For example, all I really need to do is kick his leg enough to make it bend. Then I simply step through to whatever I want. Now ideally I would love to step right there. It would separate his knee quite nicely. You've seen the round kick. Let's revisit a kick I showed you in Fighting Arts of Indonesia. In Indonesian Fighting Fundamentals and his companion video, Fighting Arts of Indonesia, I demonstrated a flip kick. It looks something like this, where I flip it into the groin. But you can also use it on his leg. Watch, Rick, switch leads. I'm going to use it on his leg. I'm going to use this no retraction thinking, where I hit and take the other leg. If your opponent is in a right lead, you do the same thing. Remember I went to the groin the first time? I'll do it again. The flip kick, done with the no retraction, step on his following leg, is a lot nastier when it's done this way. It's not the same tactic that we use with our crescent and front kicks, which we'll show you right now. With the flip kick, I shot the leg here and then drove this across. So it maintained a very constant line. This one here uses a crescent, or sometimes a sweep you can use, where I hit and then press into the back. Again, I'm going to hit this just enough to move it, and then press for the back leg. If he's in a right lead, it really makes no difference. I would simply use more of the sweeping action here.